Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, a man who abused women in an underground dungeon has been handed the first worldwide travel ban in Scottish legal history. A court ruling said Kevin Booth subjected women to punishment beatings at his remote Highland home, with one attack described as being nothing other than torture. We'll have the latest from Caithness. Also tonight, a proposed law on making dog theft a specific crime is to be introduced in the Scottish Parliament. We hear from an owner who believes his therapy dog was stolen from his garden in Ayrshire.
Not having him around, it's like losing part of your body because he was a trained anxiety dog.
And Laura has the sport tonight. What's coming up, Laura?
We'll be at Rugby Park, where Rangers interim manager Barry Ferguson is preparing his side for their Premiership game against Kilmarnock, his first match as the club's head coach.
And we'll also be joined live by Damon Hill, whose documentary about his F1 career is premiering at Glasgow Film Festival. I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. A man who abused vulnerable women in an underground chamber at his Highland home has been given the first worldwide travel ban to be imposed by a Scottish court. Kevin Booth, who's in his 60s, carried out the attacks at his home in Caithness. A court ruling said he was responsible for a systematic course of conduct of acts of human trafficking and exploitation over many years. Booth travelled regularly abroad and recruited economically vulnerable women in a number of countries, then paid for them to travel to the UK. The travel ban, which was approved after Police Scotland raised a civil action, prevents Booth from travelling outside the UK for the next 5 years. Cameron Buttle sent this report, and a warning: it does contain details that some viewers may find distressing.
This is Kevin Booth, a man who has just been banned from any travel anywhere in the world. That's because in this house he abused vulnerable women in an underground chamber, hidden underneath a trapdoor. The house is hidden from all view at the end of a long private track in a remote part of the Highlands. The nearest place on the map is the small settlement of Altnabrek. This is as close as we can get to Booth's house. It's called Lochdu Lodge, and it's more than 10 miles up this single track road, totally private. And that is where he abused his victims, and sometimes he recorded it. One woman was said by police to be completely terrified in a video that lasted for 18 minutes. Another woman was subjected to a beating that lasted for 23 minutes. Women were restrained with handcuffs and chains and subjected to what's been described as punishment beatings, being beaten with objects and hit with canes. Police Scotland did try to prosecute Booth back in 2019 when they searched his home, but the case collapsed in 2021. Another complaint in 2023 led to the force bringing a rare civil action at Wick Sheriff Court. That has led to the ban preventing Booth from travelling anywhere for 5 years.
It is worrying that the evidence that's been shown hasn't been subject to a criminal prosecution, because it looks pretty nasty, the stuff that's been going on, and it's only a civil action. However, the impact of the civil order is pretty significant on his behaviour, banning his travel activities, banning his activities in terms of hiring staff within his castle, and his behaviour is going to be closely monitored by the police. So although there's not a criminal conviction, the civil order is pretty significant in terms of his future behaviours.
Booth had already been found guilty of assaulting children in the early 90s. In 2002, he was jailed for 2 years for assaulting his au pair. Tonight, a spokesman for Police Scotland said they will use all options open to them to tackle trafficking and exploitation. Cameron Buttle reporting Scotland, Wick.
And if you've been affected by any of the issues raised in this story, help and support is available at bbc.co.uk/actionline, or you can call for free at any time to hear recorded information on 0800 077 077. That's 0800 077 077. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight's News at 7. We have more in the programme to come, including Damon Hill will be here to tell us all about the new documentary following his rise to Formula One greatness.
February has been drier than average, cloudier than average. Find out from me how it's going to end just before 7:30.
Now, should dog theft be a specific crime? Well, a bill proposing just that is being introduced in the Scottish Parliament this month by the Scottish Conservative MSP Maurice Golden. Now, at the moment, if your dog's stolen, it's treated the same as if you'd had property stolen. But if the new law is passed, it would create a new statutory offence of dog abduction with penalties of up to 5 years in prison and an unlimited fine. Our reporter Morven McKinnon spoke to the founder of Ayrshire Drone Dog Rescue, Liz Milligan, and her greyhound Casper. She asked how big an issue dog theft was.
It's definitely an increasing problem in our area. We used to deal with maybe 1-2 stolen dogs a year. Now we find we can be dealing with 5 a month, suspected stolen or stolen. So we see a massive increase on the amount of dogs that are being stolen in our area.
And what kind of impact would you say that has on dog owners?
It's horrendous. To watch a dog owner go from hoping that their dog is going to be found, which is what we primarily set out to do, to every day the dog not being seen, no one getting a sighting, the dog not being out there, just nothing coming back. We watch their health steadily decline, and it's horrible to watch because these are like a child to most people. So, for them to lose their dog, it's just horrible.
And what kind of different challenges are you up against when it comes to dealing with the people who you suspect have stolen the dogs?
The biggest challenge, we've got a case just now, the biggest challenge we've found is the lack of legislation, because currently there's nothing that really can be done without a warrant to go and take a dog back. So what we've found very, very frustrating is that the criminals know the system and know exactly what they can and can't do. Police have limited resources, which we completely understand, but they also don't have power to get a warrant, even though we know where a dog is. They've had to chap the door of a house several times of a dog that we know where it is, and then put an appointment on because they won't answer the door. So it's very, very frustrating. If this bill was to be passed, it would make it much easier to actually clamp down on people that steal dogs. A lot of what goes on in the background people don't realise is organised crime. So these dogs are being stolen for puppy farming, for breeding. Some other people use them for baiting. So if this was actually in place, the same as it is in England and Wales, and we had a prison sentence for people stealing dogs, it would hopefully start to change the way that people look at dog theft, and it may hopefully would start to change what actually happens, and that will they continue to steal dogs if they think they're going to get a 5-year prison sentence.
Well, for Vishal Lal from Ayrshire, his 3-year-old service dog Bear was like family to him, helping him to navigate life with extreme anxiety. Bear disappeared from the back garden last month, and Vishal believes he was stolen. He spoke to me earlier about what life has been like since.
He is a black and tanned Pomeranian, and he is my anxiety therapy dog, and he's not just a pet. He's effectively he is a member of my family. And second week in January, my house in Irvine, Old Pearston, Irvine in Ayrshire, he's been potentially stolen from my back garden, and the effect it's had on me has set me back, because he was there 24/7. I used to take him to all meetings. I used to take him to only dog-friendly restaurants, and not having him around, it's like losing part of your body, because he was a trained anxiety dog.
Yeah, part of your family. Tell us about how he helped you, and how different did you feel when you had Bear by your side?
I felt ease and comfort. I felt relaxed. I didn't have any panic attacks. I felt my anxiety just dissipated. And now he's not there. It's like you've lost part of your body, in effect.
This idea of dog theft being treated, as a different crime, how do you feel about that? Do you think that should happen?
Well, I've been monitoring it since 2022, the Missing Dogs Act, and I think it will be a massive deterrent, a major deterrent to those who commit dog theft, because the impact it has on victims and families. Bear's been missing now for 6 or 7 weeks, and how it set me back in life and those around me, the effect it has on your family life and your personal life, your professional life, it's massive.
Oh, hoping for a good outcome there for Bear and Bishal. Now, if you have anything to say about that story or any other that you've heard this evening, please do get in touch. We love to hear your stories. Our email address is news7@bbc.co.uk. Now, an explosion has rocked Dundee city centre today, collapsing a wall near the Overgate shopping centre. Louise Cowie has more.
I'm standing at the rear entrance to the Overgate shopping centre in Dundee, and it was at the building behind me, which is an electricity substation, where this explosion occurred shortly after 10:30 this morning. A large wall was blown out and bricks thrown across a path next to it. Thankfully, no one was injured, but this can be a busy area for people walking to and from the centre. Apparently, workers who were in the area at the time heard an almighty bang. I've also spoken to a couple of staff who were working in nearby shops, and they say their lights flickered. Fire crews rushed to the scene, as did SSEN staff. A large cordon was put in place and the entrance to the Overgate closest to the substation was closed. That cordon is likely to remain in place for some time. In the meantime, SSEN have launched an urgent investigation into this explosion, which they believe was caused by what they've described as significant equipment failure.
Louise Cowie reporting there. Right, let's get a roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. An 8-year-old girl has been the victim of sextortion at a school in Edinburgh. The school's head teacher has written to parents warning them a person had been impersonating pupils on Snapchat, demanding indecent images. In a press conference at Bute House, the First Minister John Swinney called for politicians to unite against the far right and accused Nigel Farage and his Reform Party of being apologists for the Russians. Scientists from the University of Aberdeen have used a prototype scanner which can detect previously undetectable breast cancer tissue. They've described the scanner as a world first. So for more information on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code there in the screen for you now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there is much more for you, including Murray Council being the latest local authority to raise council tax. It's planning a 10% rise. Now, to wake up from surgery not knowing who you are is the stuff of nightmares. The chances of that potentially happening twice is an even more daunting prospect. Veronica Somerville from Preston Pans near Edinburgh has spoken about her experience losing all of her memories as a result of brain surgery when she was 14. When the tumour returned over a decade later, as she was planning to marry, she feared that it could happen again. Veronica has shared her story with our reporter Richard Forbes.
When I seen my parents, I didn't know they were my parents. It was just two strangers sitting across from me. My psychologist had to say to my mum and dad, I think the best way to look at it is the Veronica, the daughter you had before the surgery, is dead. She's not here. She is a different person, and we need to learn who she is now and kind of get on with it.
As you went through your teenage years and your early 20s, did you know that the tumour would come back?
Yeah. So 10 years post my first surgery, just in July there, in June, I got my results that this was like it. This is when we need to do something about it. So then everything that, I was planning a wedding, so all the things I didn't think I could have were happening, and then they dropped the bomb that, this could not happen.
What did you do to prepare in case your memory went again?
My partner at the beginning of our relationship did me a scrapbook, and he collected all the photos and tickets of things that we've done together. And when we were kind of thinking, oh God, I could lose my memory again, we were like, we can add to it. And that would kind of help you remember the beginning of our relationship. And if we add to it, you'll know kind of the journey of where we are. And he said, I would make you fall in love with me again if that happened.
So after the most recent operation, when did you realise you were okay from a memory point of view?
When I woke up and I seen everybody, I was like, it didn't even feel like I had a brain surgery this time round. I woke up, I was not in any pain, and everybody that I remembered was there.
We're less than a year after major surgery.
Yeah.
I think most folk would be taking it easy, but you had a wedding.
Yeah.
You're moving house.
Yeah.
Busy life.
Yeah. We don't stop. And that again goes back to sort of, I don't want to have this constantly be a factor to, you know, you should be taking it slow, you've just had this surgery. But if I take it slow, I don't get to enjoy life as much. You know, doing the wedding, I don't want that not to happen because we plan so much for it. And moving house, it's if the opportunity is there, why not just go for it? Like, there's no time to waste.
What does the future hold? Are we looking at another operation in 10 years' time?
Hopefully, because they've managed to get all of the tumour, I don't ever need a surgery. But that's just me being really optimistic. But I have scan results coming up in May, June time this year. And if there is regrowth, while it's still small, we'll potentially look at starting radio and chemo.
What's the memory you're happiest that you've kept?
Probably my partner. Yeah, just us being together, and the fact that, like, back then I wouldn't even think that what I had right now was going to be possible for me. So to wake up and know that this is all mine and he's mine and I'm still here is probably that.
Still to come, we have the weather with Judith, and we'll be joined by F1 veteran Damon Hill to talk about his new film. But first, it's Sport Time with Laura.
Thank you very much. Well, he hasn't had much time to settle in, but Rangers interim manager Barry Ferguson will be preparing his side for his first match as the club's head coach. Sheila McLaren is at Rugby Park, where Kilmarnock host the Ibrox side this evening.
A new era begins for Rangers tonight. 16 years after leaving the club, Barry Ferguson is back, this time in the dugout. He's had little over 24 hours to prepare his team for tonight's match, and he's decided to go with the same starting 11 that lost to St Mirren at the weekend, the match that ultimately got Philippe Clement the sack. As for Ferguson's old teammate, Derek McInnes, well, he's made 2 changes from their defeat to Aberdeen. Cal McGuinness and Danny Armstrong are in for Liam Polworth and Liam Donnelly. There's plenty for the home side to play for this evening as they eye a place in the top 6, and they'll take confidence from their recent home form against Rangers. They've won 2 of the previous 3 meetings between the sides here at Rugby Park, although they did lose 6-0 to Rangers when the sides met at Ibrox earlier this season. For Rangers, well, this match won't turn their season around, but it might give a good indication of what's to come in the months ahead.
Sheila McLaren there at Rugby Park. Well, former Rangers defender Maurice Ross played alongside Barry Ferguson. I spoke to him a little earlier and found out what he thinks of the appointment.
I've looked at some big managers with big CVs that have came into Ibrox and on paper we're ready to take over the hot seat, but Rangers, Glasgow, the whole being a Rangers manager, I don't think anything prepares you for it. I think what Barry has on his side is he knows the club since he's 10-year-old, and yeah, that's from the playing side. But you know, I think the club have had their needs, their wants, and they've looked at Barry as an individual, what he stands for, what he's given the club. He's an ambassador to the football club. He has basically given a lot of his life to Rangers. And I think what they need is they'll be hoping that Barry can bring what he did as a player in terms of his attitude and his desire to win football matches, and hopefully that can rub off on the players.
The club have made it clear that they will make a permanent appointment in due course. Do you think if Ferguson excels in this role that could well be him on a more permanent basis?
I think the club will prepare for I would say a permanent fixture in the summer. But like anything, if you play well or you manage games and you win games, then you're an asset. If you lose games, you're a liability. So it's black and white as that. But there are managers that have come into Rangers as interim before and kept the job. So I think everybody needs to have an open mind. It's a massive task for Barry, of course it is. You know, he doesn't expect to manage Rangers this week from last week. So it's about everyone just having a level head, not being too critical or not being too excited, and just see how it plays out. Just give the guys a chance. He's got good staff in there next to him. So he'll just be preparing for tonight, and good luck to him.
And in terms of that first game in the dugout, it's a difficult first game, Kilmarnock away. How do you see it going?
Yeah, it's the last place you want to go, because Derek McInnes's teams always make it difficult for you. I hope there's that wee reaction. I really do. It'll be a tough one. It will be a tough one. There's no guarantees going down to Rugby Park, but I think if Rangers players have an honest, professional approach and they leave their hearts and souls on the pitch, then I think Rangers have enough there to win a football match.
Maurice Ross speaking to me a little earlier there. There are 4 other games in the Premiership tonight. Dundee United have the chance to move into 3rd if they can defeat 5th place Hibernian. Hearts are up against St Mirren as both sides vie for a top 6 place. Motherwell boss Michael Wimmer will take charge of his first home game against Dundee, while bottom side St Johnstone host Ross County. There are TV highlights on BBC One at 10:40. So a busy night ahead. You can keep up to date with all the action from those games by tuning in to Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland. Alternatively, the BBC Sport website will bring you the very latest. Yes, so all eyes will be on Rugby Park to see what happens with Barry Ferguson and Rangers against Kilmarnock.
I'll let you go and watch it, Laura.
Yes,
thank
you very much.
See you. Now, Glasgow Film Festival opens tonight, and if you're an F1 fan, even if you're not maybe, this one might be for you. The documentary Hill premieres tomorrow. It explores how Formula One world champion Damon Hill overcame tragedy, stepping out of his Grand Prix winning father's shadow to become a racing legend in his own right. We are going to speak to Damon in just a second, but first, here's a clip from the film.
Damon Hill takes the lead ahead of Jack Fielder. Victory in Australia for Damon Hill, and he's equalled his great father. 14 Grand Prix wins for son and father.
I won the first 3 races of the season. I can't really describe it. It's been a long time since I've been leading the championship. Obviously, I just feel top of the world at the moment. I mean, it's great.
Well, happily, Damon joins us now. Welcome to the News at 7.
Thank you very much
and
for having
me. Glasgow. Lovely to see you. How did it feel for you reflecting on that, the heyday of your career in the 90s and all that you were going through on the track and off? How did it feel now in your 60s to look back?
Yeah, I to be honest, you know, I've done quite a bit of reflecting, and so I think I'd sort of reflected myself out, and I was able, if you like, to stand back from this whole process. And it was an idea that came to us a few years back, and the guy I worked with on Sky covering F1, Simon Lazenby, was starting film production, and so he was looking for material, so we chose me as a subject, and it's taken 5 years, and Alex Holmes is the director, and he's done a fantastic job, I think, of showing how life goes on, whether you're in a championship battle or not, whether you've got a Formula One career. So it's a bit of a mix between my life, how my life affected me, and also how Formula One affects your life.
It was so revealing and very emotional, I thought. It's kind of surprised me. Did that surprise you, and particularly the grief that you talked so eloquently about losing your dad? And one thing that really stayed with me, you said you talked about trying to put the pieces back together again, and it being a long road. And I just wonder, where are you now on that road? How are you feeling now?
No, you're never going to be completely free of all the scars that you get along the way, but clearly it was a big impact when I was 15 to lose my dad, and then also to be interested enough in motor racing. And I started on bikes, but it was interesting enough, and I was drawn to car racing, and that was always a kind of seen as a predictable path, and I kind of was conflicted because I was wondering, and I think the film tries to go into some detail about that, as to whether I was doing it because of what happened to my dad or whether I was doing it because I was a racing driver. And of course, it's never simple, these things, so it's a mixture, and it's an exploration of all of those conflicting feelings and thoughts and emotions.
I feel like F1 at the moment is like it had a surgence in popularity, hasn't it? It seems to have a wider fan base, a younger fan base. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exploded. The interest in the sport has completely skyrocketed.
Are you enjoying that?
I think it's great that they're interested, and they're interested the new fans are interested in the sport that was before they showed an interest. It's the Netflix series has kind of exposed the workings of Formula One and being a Formula One driver and what it means, and I think that's intrigued people.
Well, I really enjoyed your revelations and an insight into what it all meant for you. It was lovely to see you tonight. I wish we could talk for longer, but thanks so much, Damon.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Well, that is being screened at the Glasgow Film Festival. If you are interested, it's on at the GFT tomorrow night. And also tomorrow afternoon as well. Information there on the screen, or you can look at the Glasgow Film Festival website as well for more details. Weather time. Judith is here with beautiful northern lights for us tonight.
I know,
Judith.
and we've seen a lot of this over the last couple of days. The clear skies across the north, absolutely stunning, and there's a signal that they'll be there tonight, and there'll be clearer skies across many parts, so worth taking a wee look out the window. Look at that, gorgeous. Look up at the northwest Highlands again. They've seen a lot of sunshine this month and a bit more cloud in the south, and that's because we had a weather front crossing southern Scotland which brought some rain, but for tomorrow that will have, by then it will have all cleared away. Now let's take a wee look at what's been happening. First of all, February so far, it's been a really dull month. You'll know that yourself. A lot of overcast skies. Sunnier though for the northwest sky and the western, as you've seen the lion's share of the sunshine really UK wide. It's been drier than average. We've seen around about a third of the normal amount of rain we've seen, and very little rain to come the next few days. So I think that's probably how February will be summed up, especially after Storm Ailwen. It was a really restful month weather-wise, certainly for us forecasters. Now into the next few days, high pressure building in, that settles our weather right down. A lot of dry weather to come. A weak weather front coming in later during the early hours of Saturday and through Saturday, but that clears away and the high does return. Into tomorrow morning, it'll be a cold start with the frost in rural parts first thing. Temperatures around about freezing initially. A bit more of a breeze running up the west coast, bringing one or two showers and a bit more cloud generally tomorrow, but lots of sunshine on offer, especially across eastern Scotland. Bit of cloud coming around the top of the high for the far north and the Northern Isles, again with one or two showers in the flow. Quite a keen westerly wind across the Northern Isles, but generally the winds will be light elsewhere. And actually, with very little wind across the country, I think it should feel fairly pleasant in that sunshine. After all, we're almost at spring. Temperatures a wee bit higher than we saw today, 9 or 10 Celsius. So as we head into tomorrow evening, any rogue showers in the west die away, lengthy clear spells overnight once again, a pretty widespread frost forming along with the possibility of some fog patches, especially down towards the Solway area, and that could be quite stubborn to shift as we head into Friday morning. But again, a lot of dry weather, frosty start, it does see any mist and fog burning off, dry with brighter sunny spells, 9 or 10 Celsius. The first signs of that weak front coming into the Western Isles with a strengthening wind as well. Then on Saturday, our front sinks southwards, bringing a bit of rain for a time, but it clears away pretty quickly. It brightens up behind it, it turns dry with sunny spells, and then on Sunday, the high pressure returns, so a lot of dry weather for Sunday as well. So a nice quiet weekend.
And the weekend brings spring, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. That's
Let's
exciting. It's for me anyway.
We'll see if the weather plays ball, won't we?
Hopefully.
Judith, thank you. And thank you so much for being with us tonight on News at 7. More on all of our stories on the BBC Scotland News website. We'll be back again tomorrow night at 7. Hope you can join us then. Bye for now from all of us.